Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled Parents Family Drama Reddit Stories. In today's Ripe Stories video, imagine being cut off by your entire family for marrying the love of your life, only for the same mom who abandoned you to appear years later, demanding that you give her your Tesla and pay everything for her. This entitled mother claimed I owe her for giving birth to me. However, when I refused, she did something I never saw coming. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, "Family disowned me for marrying an Asian man. 2 years later, my mom showed up with demands." So you have to understand, my family has always been a special kind of toxic. For as long as I can remember, my mom was the center of her own universe. Everything revolved around her wants, her needs, and her comfort. If things didn't go exactly her way, she would throw adult tantrums that would put a toddler to shame. Growing up, I was essentially her personal assistant, therapist, and emotional punching bag, all rolled into one. But the real breaking point came when I introduced my family to the man who is now my husband. My husband is kind, hardworking, and incredibly supportive, and he also happens to be Asian. My family is originally from Nigeria, and they hold onto some very outdated views. I always knew that they were ignorant, but I had hopelessly wished that they would at least try to be decent people when they met the man I loved. Well, I was completely wrong. The first time I brought him to a family dinner, my mother spent the entire evening making passive-aggressive comments about his culture, his career, and his family, and my husband handled it with pure grace and didn't let it ruin his mood, but I was absolutely furious. After we left, I called my mom and told her that her behavior was unacceptable, and instead of apologizing, she doubled down. She told me that I was making a massive mistake, that I was ruining the family image, and that she would never accept him into the family. Things escalated over the next few months. When my husband and I announced our engagement, my mother threw an absolute fit. She demanded I call off the wedding. She told me that if I married him, I would be dead to her and the rest of the family, and I realized right then that I had a choice to make. I could either spend the rest of my life trying to please people who would never respect me or my partner, or I could walk away and build a happy life with the man I loved. And well, I chose my husband. We had a beautiful small wedding with his family and our closest friends. Not a single person from my side of the family showed up. They completely disowned me. My mother even went out of her way to block my phone number and block me on all social media platforms, and I admit it hurt at first. It is a terrible feeling to realize your own parents care more about their bigotry than they care about their own child, but as time went on, the pain faded and was replaced by a profound sense of peace. Without my mom constantly demanding my attention and draining my energy, my life improved dramatically. My husband and I focused entirely on our careers and our future together. We moved to a new neighborhood in a different part of the state, far away from my toxic relatives. We both worked incredibly hard. I got a massive promotion at my job, and my husband started his own successful consulting business. We bought a beautiful house in a quiet upscale neighborhood. We were now financially stable, deeply in love, and living a complete drama-free life. Because of our hard work, I was finally able to purchase my dream car, a brand new Tesla. I'd spent years saving for it, and driving it felt like a symbol of how far I had come on my own. Life was going perfectly. Then, a couple of years after the wedding, my mom shattered my peace. My husband was out running some errands and I was in the living room relaxing. The doorbell rang. I was not expecting any packages or visitors, so I looked through the peephole. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Standing on my front porch, looking exactly the same as she did the day she disowned me, was my own mother. I stood there frozen for a moment, my mind racing with questions. How did she find my address? Why was she here? I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and opened it just enough to speak to her. She didn't look sorry. She didn't look guilty. She looked around my front porch with a critical eye and then peered past me into the house. "Well, are you not gonna invite your mother inside?" she asked, acting as if she had just dropped by for a casual visit. I gripped the edge of the door. "What are you doing here?" I asked her. She rolled her eyes and let out a dramatic sigh. "Is that any way to greet the woman who gave you life? It's been a long time. I came to see how you were doing." I told her she made it very clear that she didn't care how I was doing when she disowned me for marrying my husband, and I asked her again how she found my house and what she actually wanted. She ignored my question entirely, pushed past me, and I was so stunned by her audacity that I stepped back. She walked straight into my living room, inspecting the furniture, the decor, and the hardwood floors. "You have done very well for yourself," she said, trailing her fingers over the back of my sofa. "Very nice place. I saw that fancy electric car in the driveway too. A Tesla. Must have cost a fortune." I crossed my arms and demanded she tell me why she was in my house. I was already planning to ask her to leave, but part of me was morbidly curious about why she had broken 2 years of total silence just to show up unannounced. My mother sat down on my couch, making herself completely at home. She looked up at me and put on a pitiful expression that I instantly recognized from my childhood. It was the face she made right before she demanded a massive favor. "Things have been very difficult for me lately," she began. "Your sister moved away and refuses to help me. The economy is terrible. My landlord raised my rent and my car keeps breaking down. It is just impossible for a woman my age to survive out there." I stared at her blankly. I asked her what any of that had to do with me. She let out a short, forced laugh. "Well, you are my kid. It is obvious you have plenty of money to spare. Look at this house, look at that car. You are living in luxury while your own mother is struggling to get by." I reminded her that I was no longer her child according to her own words, and I reminded her that she told me I was dead to her. "Oh, that was just a silly argument," she said, waving her hand dismissively, as if she was wiping away years of racial abuse and emotional manipulation. "Families fight, you know. It's completely normal, but at the end of the day, I'm your mom, and right now I need your help." I told her I was not going to give her a single dime. Her face tightened, the fake sweetness dropped immediately, and the entitled monster I grew up with came roaring back to the surface. She stood up from the couch, crossed her arms, trying to physically intimidate me by standing in my space. "You listen to me," she snapped. "I didn't come all this way to be disrespected. I birthed you and I raised you. I sacrificed my entire youth to make sure that you had clothes on your back and food in your stomach. You owe me for everything you have." I actually laughed out loud. I told her that providing basic necessities to a child she chose to have does not create a lifelong financial debt. I told her that my husband and I earned everything we had through our own hard work without a single ounce of support from her, and she completely ignored my logic. And by the way, guys, just to quickly interject here, if you would be in OP's situation, would you have helped your own mom? Or not? Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to like the video, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. She then began pacing around my living room, listing off her demands as if she was placing an order at a restaurant. "I've thought about this carefully," she stated confidently. "I know we can make this work. First, I need you to transfer that title of that Tesla to me. I need a reliable vehicle, and it is ridiculous for a young person to drive a luxury car while their mother struggles with an unreliable clunker." I just stared at her in complete shock. The sheer audacity was almost hard to process. She wanted me to give her my car, my expensive brand new car that I paid for with my own money. Before I could even respond to that insane demand though, she kept going by saying, "Second, you're going to take over my rent payments." She continued counting the demands on her fingers. "It's the least you can do. You clearly have a massive income. And finally, I expect a monthly stipend of $2,000. That should be enough for me to handle my groceries, my bills, and finally live the good life I deserve after raising you." I stood there in my own living room, looking at this woman who had caused me so much pain, and I felt nothing but overwhelming relief. For a long time after the wedding, I had secretly worried that I made a mistake cutting my family off. I worried maybe I had overreacted or maybe they would change. But hearing her stand in my home and demand my car, my money, and my complete financial submission confirmed every single choice I had ever made. She hadn't changed. She was exactly the same selfish, entitled person she had always been, so I looked her in the eye and spoke in the calmest, most even tone I've ever used. "Absolutely not." My mother stopped pacing. She looked at me as if I had just spoken a foreign language. "Excuse me? You're not getting my car," I said clearly. "You are not getting my money, you're not getting a monthly stipend, and you're not getting anything from me ever." Her face turned a bright mottled red. "How dare you?" she screamed, her voice echoing off the walls. "I'm your mother. You have a legal and moral obligation to take care of me. I will not let you sit here in your mansion while I suffer." I told her I didn't care if she ended up living in a cardboard box. I reminded her that she threw me away because of the color of my husband's skin, and I told her she chose her bigotry over her daughter, and these were the consequences of her actions. She stepped closer to me, pointing a finger directly in my face. "You're a selfish, ungrateful brat. If you don't agree to this right now, I will make your life a living hell. I will tell everyone we know how you abuse the elderly. I will sue you for grandparents' rights." I couldn't help it. I laughed right in her face again. I pointed out that we didn't have any kids, so suing for grandparents' rights would be a rather difficult legal battle for her. That completely derailed her train of thought. She stuttered for a moment, trying to find a new angle to attack from. "I will sue you for everything you have. I will take this house, I will take the car, the courts will force you to provide for me." I walked over to the front door and opened it wide. The morning air flowed into the house and I gestured towards the street. "Get out of my house," I demanded. "I'm not leaving until we have an agreement," she yelled, planting her feet on the floor like a stubborn toddler. "If you don't walk out of that door in the next 10 seconds, I am calling the police and have you removed for trespassing," I told her firmly. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, unlocked it, showing her the screen. "You have no right to be here. You got no right to my belongings. Leave now or you will leave in handcuffs." She stared at me, trying to gauge if I was bluffing, and when she realized I was completely serious, her entire demeanor shifted from aggressive to purely vindictive. She grabbed her purse, stormed towards the door, stomping her feet loudly on my floors, and as she crossed the threshold onto the porch, she turned around to deliver one final threat. "You will regret this. You're gonna burn in hell for abandoning your own mom. I'm going to ruin your reputation. Have a nice drive back," I said cheerfully, and I slammed the door right in her face. I immediately locked the deadbolt and watched her through the front window. She stood on the porch for a few moments, looking completely stunned that her master plan had failed so spectacularly. She then marched down the driveway, glaring at my car as she passed it. She got into an older sedan parked on the street and sped away, completely failing to notice the irony of her demanding my electric car while driving away in her own functioning vehicle. When my husband got home later, I told him everything that had happened. He was incredibly supportive and helped me while the adrenaline finally wore off. We discussed getting a restraining order, but we decided to wait and see if she actually tried to escalate the situation. We installed a full security system around the perimeter of the house, including high-quality cameras overlooking the driveway and the front porch. I warned the security guards at our neighborhood entrance not to let her through under any circumstances, and I also warned my employer about the situation just in case she tried to show up at my workplace and cause a scene or something. To my complete lack of surprise, my mother did try to cause a scene, but she did it entirely online. She created a new social media account and began messaging any extended family members she could find, telling them that I was a horrible, greedy daughter who refused to help her starving mother. She claimed I'd stolen money from her to buy my car and my house. The best part of this entire situation, though, was the reaction from the extended family. Nobody believed her. The family members who shared her bigoted views had already written me off years ago anyway, so they didn't care what happened to me. But the few family members who were actually decent people already knew exactly what my mom was like, and they knew she had disowned me, and they saw right through her ridiculous lies. One of my cousins even sent me screenshots of my mom's messages, laughing at about how desperate she sounded. My mom's attempt to ruin my reputation failed miserably. She tried to play a game of power and control, and she lost completely. She thought she could march into my life after treating me like garbage and simply demand the fruits of my labor. She genuinely believed her title of mother gave her supreme authority over my finances, my property, and my life, and it has been several months since that confrontation, and everything has been wonderfully quiet. My husband and I are continuing to thrive. We recently even took a beautiful vacation, and I enjoyed driving my car every single day knowing it belongs entirely to me. So yeah guys, 2OP, I mean, your mom did not come to your house because she missed you, she came because she saw assets. That's it really. She didn't even ask how you were, didn't apologize for disowning you, did not even acknowledge the racism towards your husband, and did not pretend to rebuild the relationship before demanding your car and a monthly payment plan like you were some kind of retirement account with a daughter attached. Also, I'm kind of getting tired of the whole "I birthed you" argument, which is always crazy. I mean, kids don't owe their parents luxury vehicles because their parents fulfilled the bare minimum legal obligation of feeding and clothing them. That is not an invoice. That is what you call parenting in my book. Either way, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'm very curious. And now some comments from Reddit. The first one said, "The sheer audacity of this woman to demand your car and a $2,000 monthly allowance after disowning you for marrying an Asian man is simply mind-blowing. The grandparents' rights threat for kids that don't even exist absolutely sent me. You handled this perfectly. She thought she could just waltz back in and play the respect your elders card because she smelled some money. Keep those cameras rolling, keep the doors locked and enjoy your drama-free life with your husband. You don't owe your abuser a single dime, let alone a Tesla." And another, slightly more unhinged comment from Reddit said the following: "I don't care what she said 2 years ago, she literally gave you life. You're sitting there bragging about your fancy Tesla and your big house while the woman who birthed you and sacrificed her youth is struggling to pay rent in this terrible economy. The fact that you laughed in her face shows how arrogant and materialistic you have become since getting a little bit of money. So what if she didn't like your husband at first? Parents are protective, especially coming from a traditional Nigerian background. You should have handed her the keys to the car, or at the very least set up the monthly stipend. You owe her back pay for 18 years of room and board, and honestly, I hope she does find a way to sue you. You sound incredibly selfish." And yeah guys, if you ask me, the person who wrote this Reddit comment should get sued instead for being such a stupid person. And the next one is titled, "Petty Revenge, we don't share alcohol in this house." So this story takes place a few years back when I came home from university for Christmas holiday to visit my family. I was of legal drinking age at the time as well, so to set the scene, it is just my mom and I having dinner at the beginning of our time off. She pours herself a glass of wine from an average bottle. I'm not a wine snob, but she is. Anyway, I ask for a glass as well to go with dinner and she declines. Her exact words are, "We don't share alcohol in this house." Okay, not a problem. I didn't know this rule, and as I'm not a heavy drinker, I didn't see the issue with just having a glass out of her bottle, so I go on off to the liquor store to grab myself a bottle to drink over the next few days, and lo and behold, I find her favorite bottle of wine. It is Burrowing Owls. The liquor store only has a case of it and limits the number of bottles you can buy. I mean, it's a rare find, and I lucked out, so I buy the maximum, which is 2, and hit 1, while I bring the second inside. By now, it is evening, and after dinner, my mom is in the living room finishing her wine. I open the bottle and bring both the bottle and a glass to the living room, and my mom eyes up the bottle and asks for a glass. I look her dead in the eyes and say, "Sorry mom, we don't share alcohol in this house." She then offers me 2 of her bottles for mine, says I won't know the difference, but I stand firm. We don't share alcohol in this house. So I force myself to finish the bottle in front of her while she is sulking. Christmas morning, after my family has opened up all our gifts, I come out with the second bottle as a gift to my mom. She shared it with me that night. And the next one is a petty revenge story, which is titled, "Delivery driver blocks city street for 25 minutes during rush hour. He returns to get the money he was told he dropped, waits 25 minutes just to be told there was no such money." So for some context here, last week a delivery driver for a big construction company parked his truck in the only driving lane on a big city street and proceeded to make his delivery. The bus I was on was unable to reroute, streets too small for the bus to turn, and then car after car also got stuck and caught in the jam. The bus driver and then some resident all yelled at him that he cannot park in the only driving lane. He yelled and said, "He's allowed, because he's making a delivery." Well, I got the name on the company and a truck ID/license. Originally, I was just planning to go and call and tell the company, but I knew nothing would be really done. So here's what I did. I called the company HQ and said in a kindly old man voice that I'd seen a driver, date, time, location, truck ID, drop a significant amount of cash and that I would like to return it to the driver. They made some calls and eventually the guy calls and says, "Hey, thanks for finding the cash." And we set up a time to meet back in the city. For context, he lived/worked about 30 to 45 minutes away. I gave him the address of the rec center down the block from my house so I could watch his arrival. Well, once he got there and texted that to the Good Samaritan, I said I was picking up an RX and could he wait a little bit. So I see him get out of the car, have a smoke, and probably think how he's gonna spend the $1,800 he never even dropped. Well, after 25 minutes and a few apologetic texts, I tell him that I am inside the rec center. He gets out of the car, goes inside, and several calls ensue, and I don't answer. He walks back to the car, and I text that I saw him, but was on the other side of the rec center and using crutches, so I couldn't catch him. He walks back inside, several more calls and texts, and now he's getting pissed. He stomps back to his car. I call him, now using my real voice, and tell him, "Sorry man, I know waiting sucks. Remember that delivery you made on XYZ Street on Monday? Well, I'm sorry to say, but I was in the bus that had to wait for you, and now you just waited for cash that was never real, and by the way, I'm watching you from my house right now, you fat a-hole." He turns so bright red, I can see it. He calls and texts threats to me several times, all to a burner phone number by the way, that I got special for the occasion, but I don't reply. The last few days I've called him from a hotel lobby guest phone just to tell him and leave a voicemail that he should never block the street again, and I hope he did not need the money. And damn guy, I gotta say, OP is an absolute legend for getting a burner phone number just for petty revenge. That is next level if you ask me. This was absolute next level petty revenge. Thank you for watching, please check out my playlist on the left, and I will see you again tomorrow.